Welcome to Over 40, Fabulous and Pregnant. I am your host, Jamie Massey, and you're listening to episode 74. If you are looking for pregnancy stories of women over 40, we are sharing a great story today. Claire is coming on the show to share her pregnancy story at 43, but she was also pregnant at 39 and 41, which we will also touch on. And we do discuss a few things that could definitely be considered controversial. As you know, we do not shy away from talking about loss on this podcast because loss is a part of so many of our stories. And Claire's story is no different, and we talk about some shame around the events of loss. My mom also wanted to make sure that I note, if you experience loss and you ever see fetal tissue, that I believe your doctor would want to see it because they might be able to figure out what went wrong with the pregnancy. Other times, I know we are going through something so emotionally and mentally painful that we aren't sure what to do in the moment. The next roundtable discussion is IVF over 40, and it has been scheduled. It is going to be such a great show. We have 2 returning guests on and 1 new guest. IVF doesn't work for everyone, and I thought it would be really important to share that perspective also. I am really glad you agreed. That show will be episode 80, and I will be asking for all of your questions before March 17th of 2024, just in case you are listening to this show a little later. Also, if you've had a baby and are over 40, I would love to share your story. If you go over to over40fabulousandpregnant.com under contact us, I have all the information you will need and want to know about being a guest on the show. You can also email me at jamie@over40fabulousandpregnant.com. I love hearing from you too. So we have so many great conversations on Instagram too, so please don't hesitate. I can't believe I am about a month away from turning 43 and I'm 22 weeks pregnant. The downhill slope until baby is here. I had another appointment with the midwife last Monday. She had a hard time getting the heartbeat only because baby wouldn't stay still, which I'm totally okay with. I'm all healed from the vaginal polyp, and I totally cried at this appointment. I would have been fine if we didn't bring up feelings. But I was saying I thought I gained too much weight, and then they had to tell me I worked so hard to bring this baby here, and then I just couldn't hold it in. It was short-lived tears, but I don't like doing that. She also set me up for the gestational diabetes test for my next appointment, and the anatomy scan is on the 14th. I'm really excited for that one. I feel like I haven't seen baby in so long, but really it hasn't been that long. The midwife at the ER wanted me to see a high-risk doctor, which pushed back the appointment. But with that, let's get into Claire's pregnancy story at 43. Claire, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jamie.
And today we have Claire sharing her pregnancy at 43. But she was actually pregnant at 39, 40, and 41. But before we get into her story, Claire, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm a mum of 3 from the UK. I started my pregnancy journey at 39. My third pregnancy, it was my 4th pregnancy, but my 3rd child was born when I was 43 years old. So essentially, when she arrived, I had 3 kids under the age of 4, which it's been a whirlwind. She's now 2 years old, but it feels like yesterday. I'm really excited to be here. I love talking about my story. I love hearing other people's stories. So yeah, thank you so much for for allowing me to share with you.
Claire, let's go back to your pregnancy at 39. Can you
Yeah.
just briefly go over that a little bit and help us for context?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it was an accident. My then boyfriend, who's now my husband, but my boyfriend at the time, we'd only been dating for 8 months. We knew how we felt about each other. We are at a stage where in life where we did want children, and we were just kind of being a bit casual and coy about it and not, taking the leap and actually talking about it. We were just not being cautious. And I
Yeah.
got pregnant and surprise. So now we're going to have to do this thing called life together. But
Have
it's
you
worked out.
always wanted kids?
Do you know, definitely been through stages where I was probably having a bit too much fun in my 20s and early 30s, where I thought, I don't know if I want kids after all. But I think it was just meeting the right person that brought it to the front of mind, where I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do it. And also my sister as well, she had twin girls, and just bonding with them started to get those sort of maternal juices flowing.
There's nothing like being an amazing aunt. It's so much fun.
You do. You love them as if they're your own,
Oh, so true. Yes, they are mine. So tell
Absolutely.
us, what happened after your first pregnancy? How was that? Just a normal pregnancy? Would you say no complications?
Well, I had gestational diabetes,
Okay.
which, was a surprise to me because I was incredibly fit at the time. I was a yoga instructor. My diet was pretty good, was slim. I didn't really understand, but then I read that, quite an alarming number of women are diagnosed with gestational diabetes.
Hmm.
I was really upset about it during the diagnosis. I mean, the doctor, the nurse, sorry, it was a male nurse who sat me down to talk about it, used the word stillbirth when
Yes.
talking to me about it. And that is just the one word that a pregnant woman does not need to hear, you know?
Yes.
So it sent me on a real spin, and I felt really upset that my body wasn't perfect, for
Yep.
something that I wanted so badly. So gestational diabetes, I mean, it was fine. In the end, it just turned out to be a massive pain in the ass. But I guess I lost a bit of weight actually, as
Yeah.
in, yeah, because otherwise I definitely would have been eating a lot more puddings. But yeah, so there was that. And also I had to take blood thinners because I'd had a blood clot
Ooh.
a few years prior to that. Yeah, so that was injecting myself daily with blood thinners, which is not fun, just sort of sticking needle in yourself every day. But I just used to have this ritual of looking at the needle and saying to myself, I love my baby, and then just sticking the needle in and getting on with it, you know?
Yes. Any person going through IVF knows the same thing.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
sure.
So that pregnancy, birth, everything went fine.
Yeah, the birth was great. I had an epidural, that really helped. And then she arrived, and it was the most amazing experience. You have this idea in your head of how your baby could look.
Yes.
And then you see your baby and you're like, holy. You just can't get your head around that that is the face that you have waited your whole life to see.
Yeah. You instantly fell in love.
Instantly fell in love. And
Oh,
I made the mistake actually on the first night of sending Ogo home to sleep. Yeah, that was a mistake. You should have just stayed in the hospital with me because I couldn't get any sleep at all. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and the ward was so quiet, and I just had her on my chest, and I was just promising to be the best mum I could possibly be because I just loved her so, so, so much. You wear your lips out just kissing
yes. I can
so much.
imagine.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
So what happened after that? So yeah, we had Chia. She was a pretty good baby. I breastfed, which meant that I was incredibly exhausted and I didn't have any kind of sleep at all for
Oh,
that first year. So I was pretty surprised when I got pregnant the second time. she was a year old. Yeah, as I said, she was still waking up every 2 hours to be breastfed, and she wasn't that into food. And it was winter time, so she always had there was always sniffles, and so she needs more breast milk. So just exhausted. And then, yeah, surprise, 2 weeks late for my period. I went in actually to have an early scan at 7 weeks, and they said, yep, definitely, pregnant. And that was that. And then a week later, I remember I was sitting in a restaurant with my husband. I was exhausted, and I just said to him, I don't know if this is going to happen, this pregnancy. I am so tired. I just don't feel good. I don't feel good. I don't know if I can, my body just doesn't feel like something didn't feel right. So I would have been 8 weeks when that happened. And then over the course of the next 2 weeks, I had a bit of spotting. My morning sickness had stopped. And again, it didn't quite feel right. So I went back in for another scan. And that's when they said, yeah, your baby stopped growing 2 weeks ago. Your baby has actually passed. So, we recommend that you have an operation now to remove the fetus, or you'll start your miscarriage naturally. And I was booked in for the operation, but the miscarriage actually started naturally anyway, a few days later. It was a completely overwhelming experience. I think, people have used the word miscarriage, I think, in the past, and it's something that, or you're aware of, but I've also heard people say that it's a bit like having a heavy period or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so much more than that in every single way. It's not just a heavy period. It's not something that just happens. It's a massive experience as a woman that nobody will ever be able to come close to understanding unless you are a woman who has been through it. And there was a huge amount of blood, and it turned out, yes, that I was actually I was losing too much blood, and that could have been a result of the blood thinners. But either way, I had to call an ambulance, or I asked my husband to call the ambulance, because I was just in the bathroom on the toilet and I couldn't move. I couldn't get off the toilet because there was so much bleeding. So he called an ambulance and they took me in and they admitted me. And yeah, it was just a whirlwind. I just remember trying to be really stoic and really strong, because you're in a really vulnerable situation. You've got, I had two male doctors, because I don't know, for some reason, they needed each other to be there. Two male doctors, with the scanning, I don't know what it's called, the internal scanning.
Yeah.
Yes. Discussing everything that was going on. And it was, yeah, you're just incredibly vulnerable. It's a really emotionally and physically painful experience. So I kind of held it together, and I kept telling myself that, it's okay because I already had one. And also, it's the best thing that could have happened scientifically, because if the baby wasn't completely healthy, then this was kind of the best thing to happen. But, it didn't actually kind of hit me all in one go and then leave either. It stayed with me a really, really, really long time afterwards.
Yeah.
I think even kind of years, I was just slowly processing what happened. And it would come up, when I got pregnant again, or every now and again, you get like a certain reminder about it, don't you?
Yeah. How was your husband at that time?
Oh, I mean, he, bless him, in that first, when we went to the hospital at 10 weeks and they said the baby had passed, he really fell apart. He was so upset. And then in the hospital, he's trying to be supportive, but ultimately, we are the carriers of strength. He was being so supportive and so kind, and he is the kind of husband that will change my sanitary pants. He's there like I'm just shaking and a complete physical mess, and he's changing my underwear and, telling me that I'm amazing, and yeah, just being as loving as you could possibly hope someone to be in that situation.
Were you kind of go over what you were telling me before we even started recording? I think it's so important.
The being on the toilet.
Yeah.
I mean, we touched upon this and you, yeah, sort of affirming to me that this is very much a feeling that a lot of women go through, just took a massive weight off my shoulders. I think one of the hardest things about this, the processing of the miscarriage was always that I can't believe my baby was flushed down a toilet, like because that was how it left my body. That's where I was when it left my body, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about it at the time. I left the house, and, when I got back to the house, it'd all been cleaned up for me. And, just to think, it's gone,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Like
And
it doesn't feel honorable or a way to honor the pregnancy. It feels, uh,
yeah,
you
it
know,
feels so sad. It
it,
just feels sad.
yeah. And to that, even for me, I've had three natural miscarriages, right? And it's like I have flushed every single one of them.
Yeah,
And I think we all kind of have that guilt associated to it. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Thank you
was,
for sharing that.
that's okay. I mean, to hear you kind of normalize it is massive to me because that's something that I've never really talked about.
Yeah.
So then, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
so much courage. Yeah, it stays with you, and it's an awful experience, but in a way, in a weird way, I think I feel a little bit privileged that I have experienced it because it is so meaningful.
Yeah.
Also, I think it reminded me how powerful we are,
Yeah.
how strong we are. And it annoys me that miscarriage is so reduced to just a word that people don't really understand, because I think because it can be so common, people don't realize what a big deal it actually is.
I often like to thank my body. Like, thank you for doing all the work. I'm glad I didn't have to have a surgery or, anything like that. I like to find a way. How can I thank my body and to honor my body
Yeah.
for going through this too? Yeah.
I actually had a womb healing a few months later just because I felt so disconnected from my body. I felt so disconnected from my womb. I felt like I didn't know my body anymore.
You didn't trust it.
No, it just felt alien, and actually I remember she asked me to put my hand on my womb at the beginning of the healing, and it felt jarring to me to want to connect and touch that area.
Yeah.
I was so glad that I did, and that I started to realize actually how amazing I was, and started to have more sympathy for my body rather than frustration.
Go back to reconnecting with yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we are vessels, aren't we, for these
Yeah.
amazing little beings that join us on earth.
Yeah. Now that you've had your miscarriage at 40,
Yeah.
tell us the great news when you turned 41.
Yeah. So it was a few weeks before my 41st birthday. So he was 41 when he was born. I was 41 when he was born. And we weren't trying. I feel a little bit conscious that I am a bit annoying when I say I wasn't trying and I kept getting pregnant. We
Oh,
weren't, we
great,
were,
though. That's amazing.
yes. But I feel every time that I was incredibly relaxed. I was having a good time with my husband. I'd had a glass of wine and I wasn't thinking about getting pregnant. And I'm a big believer that meditation really helped as well. And just that whole connecting to my body, just meditating and relaxation. I have gone through periods where I was really into exercise. I have to say, not for years at this point. I'm like way too exhausted and busy right now. Really into exercise, and I wasn't doing any of that. And I think that that was really helpful I think there's way too much pressure on women to have these gym toned bodies and to be lifting weights and doing all this. And it's really important to be like super fit throughout your pregnancy. But for me, just being relaxed and letting go is what served me best. Just eating the cake and not trying to get a really, amazing six pack.
So your pregnancy at 40 and birth were no complications? 41.
Third pregnancy, 41,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So it was just the same thing as last time. It was the gestational diabetes and the injecting myself with blood thinners.
Uh-huh.
This was going to be my routine now.
Uh-huh.
If I was going to have a baby, then that's what they were going to make me do. So no complications, natural birth again, epidural. The epidural this time was actually ridiculous. They gave me so much that I was literally just sat there with an iPad, like, a bit bored. I couldn't feel anything. It was a little bit too much. I felt like I was cheating the whole process completely. And then I looked at the midwife and I said, well, he's coming now. And then I just opened my legs and he literally just, it was
Wow.
ridiculous. Yeah. So I feel very, very blessed again that, that happened. It's like I really, really overthought my labors though, like in the lead up to everything. I used to freak out massively. I'd do all these sort of hypnotherapy courses. I'd do the hypnobirthing courses. I'd get the apps. I was always so worried about the birth. Never needed to actually worry.
So after 2 babies, did your family feel complete?
Do you know what? There was a weird feeling of not being satisfied, but I really wanted to be satisfied. I gave away everything baby related as soon as Callie was old enough.
Uh-huh.
And I was very, very, very much like, this is it. No more, no way, forget it. My husband was due to have a vasectomy. This was all in 2020 as well, by the way.
Oh my
So he
gosh.
booked to have a vasectomy and then COVID got it cancelled, obviously. But Callie was a really different baby to my first. He screamed a lot, a
Uh-huh.
lot, a lot. He was a very unhappy baby.
What were
Yeah.
you doing? Like, were you doing any, because this was a surprise. What were you doing to get pregnant so easily, maybe? If that's probably not the right word, but
Yeah. They say, don't they, that after a miscarriage, the best window to get pregnant is that kind of within 6 months, isn't it?
yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Uh-huh.
That Kalu was conceived literally on the 6th month following the miscarriage. So that might have had something to do with the ease of getting
Uh-huh.
pregnant. I was definitely getting a bit more sleep and yeah, just wasn't trying,
Uh-huh.
I had some fun weekends with my friends planned, to get away. We had a lovely summer, just wasn't trying. Yeah.
Yeah. So going to your third baby, when did you conceive that baby?
He was 8 months old. I was incredibly exhausted. I have absolutely no idea when my husband and I managed to have sex in that period at all. At all. It's crazy. So what happened was I was trying to put on a pair of jeans and I couldn't do the button up. And I thought, it's a bit weird. I put on weight. Like, I definitely could fit into these jeans a few weeks ago. And my mum said to me, you're looking a bit round. Is everything all right? Are you
What a
pregnant?
mom comment.
And I couldn't believe it. What are you talking about? I said, I am not pregnant, but I feel really sick all the time. So I called the doctor up and I said, I feel sick all the time. And I said, first thing though, you need to know is I'm definitely not pregnant. So he prescribed me some sort of like, what's it called? When you've got a bit of reflux or something, indigestion.
Uh-huh.
remedy. Fast forward a week, my mum calls me up again. She said, I just really want you to do a pregnancy test. I'm really sorry. Just do the test for me and then I'll shut up. And I was like, well, you've got to have sex to get pregnant. I definitely have not had sex. So there was obviously just some random night when I'd had a glass of wine and I was so exhausted, I just forgot. Yeah, I did the test and I couldn't believe it. I just sat there and stared at this test that said positive and just literally was speechless, completely speechless. I went to the doctor and she said,
Wait, did you call your mom back?
yes. And she was like, I knew it. I bloody knew it. I was so annoyed that she was right. So annoyed.
Isn't that always the truth?
Yeah. And it turns out that I was actually 12 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
12. I'd gone the entire first trimester not knowing. But I think it was denial. I just, I mean, the signs had been there the whole time. Like I was exhausted. I thought I had COVID through one section of it. And then obviously in hindsight, that was just pregnancy because you're just so exhausted, aren't you?
Yeah. So did you finally come to terms with it?
No,
Ugh.
I didn't. I have to say, I really didn't until, do you know what I did? I went back to speak to my womb healer again.
Uh-huh.
I said, I'm having a really tough time getting my head around this. Let's do another session and help me sort of connect back in. So she got me to lie down, close my eyes, relax, put my hands on my stomach and just see how I felt. And immediately it was love. And I was like, oh, God damn you. Oh, I can't help it. I love you so much. I love you so much. And I'm glad. Thank you.
Wow. With just
Yeah.
one session. That's amazing.
She is amazing, this woman. Honestly, I'll give you a link to who she is. But
Maybe
honestly,
I need to do that too, because I am kind of struggling with acceptance also. So
wow.
I love that you kind of seeked it out and you got help for it.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It was just after the miscarriage, I saw literally a postcard in a window and it said womb healing. And I saw it and I thought, well, that's what I need. That's what I need after this miscarriage. I need to heal my womb space. Yeah, so I spoke to her. I knew immediately I was in love. And then the scans became exciting, but still, I don't know. I still don't think I was quite mentally I don't know. I just kind of cruised through that pregnancy, bigger. But I was so busy with two other small children, a 2-year-old and a baby. And you know what? It wasn't until I went into labor with Zira, my third, that I looked at my husband and I said, I'm not ready to have another baby. I can't do this. I can't do this.
Wow.
I know.
Wait, so let's go back to your pregnancy. Let's make sure we answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Did you use your doctor that you used for all your other ones?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different over here. Like with the NHS, it's just a bit more luck who you see. You don't have a doctor, but actually we have a GP who is one of my husband's best friends. So we're very lucky. So I saw him regularly, but at the hospital it was, very often different midwives.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're all amazing. Amazing. I feel like midwives are angels.
That's who I'm going with this time. Well, this time I've chosen midwives for my care, which is probably not the normal in the US.
Right.
How would you describe your pregnancies compared to the other ones? Was this one easier or harder, or how does it fall in with the other ones?
Pregnancy is not easy.
Yes.
Full stop. I don't understand when women say they love being pregnant. It is, for me, it's just hard work. It's hard work. I mean, your body is doing so much and you're carrying all this weight and the sleep gets trickier and trickier. And there's the nervousness of it all as well, Every day, only you are responsible for this little person inside you. Once it's out, everyone else can help out, but when it's just you feel very responsible and it's a bit scary and overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah.
And For me, it didn't matter how many times I went through it. And I think, the miscarriage as well definitely kind of gave me that nudge of never take anything for granted.
Yeah. And did you find out the sex?
Every time. There's no way. There's no way I couldn't know. I needed to plan names. I needed to plan clothing. Yeah. And I also, for me as well, it was about that attachment, that bond to be able to say he or she,
Uh-huh.
when I was talking about my baby and yeah, and talking to my baby as well, you
Yeah,
know?
I get that for sure. And was there any product or anything that helped you during pregnancy that you can recommend?
Yeah, there was an app. I believe it was called the Gentle Birthing app. And that really helped me with my anxieties.
How
Um,
so?
I mean, because I was so anxious about the birth every single time. There's loads of, good breathing exercises and meditations and relaxations. And that was always my strategy in every pregnancy. Relax, relax, relax.
That's a
You
good
know,
one. Yeah.
just because my brain was doing overtime otherwise with worrying. Lie down and spend time with my baby. That's what I would do. Like just leave me alone for 20 minutes. I'm just going to be in here with my baby. And it was also just another opportunity to just connect in every time, speak to baby, you know.
Yeah. What about diet? Were you also relaxed with this one, like your other ones with your diet?
Yeah, I was relaxed. I have to say my diet has got progressively worse over the last sort of 5 years because when you are breastfeeding or sleep deprived, dealing with a newborn, all the rest of it, sugar and caffeine, it's terrible to say, but it was just a case of give me all the cake. I I didn't deprive myself of anything. I was always, stay balanced,
Uh-huh.
fruits and my vegetables as well, but definitely going to eat the cake.
So for this pregnancy, how did you prepare for birth? Did you still do the hypnobirthing and all that with this one too?
Yes, I had to. And do you know what? I was so nervous because now I knew what to expect, you
Uh-huh.
know, and I'd had epidurals in my first two.
Uh-huh.
So I was very aware that this birth was likely to be very quick and there was probably not going to be any time for an epidural.
Uh-huh.
And there wasn't any time for an epidural.
When
Yeah.
did labor start? How far along were you?
So I knew that my labor had started, as in, so you have before active labor,
Uh-huh.
1 to 4 centimeters. I felt like that had been going on for a couple of days. My Braxton Hicks were insane, to the point that I was like, oh, I'm in labor, I'm in labor. And then it would pass and go away and nothing would happen. It was so frustrating. And I went in and I got checked and they were like, no, not really. There's about a centimeter. So we're actually going to induce you because you're a day overdue date anyway. And I was saying, I don't really think that's necessary. I feel like, it's going to happen pretty soon.
Yeah.
But the thing is as well, when you've got two other children at home and limited childcare,
Yeah.
I didn't really have the luxury of waiting it out a few more days and having the kids looked after by other people. It was like, well, here's an opportunity to get it going. So I should probably just get it going.
Tell us now, is your due date at 40 weeks or 41?
40.
Okay.
What's yours?
It's 40 also. I heard somewhere say that it was 41 somewhere else.
Especially when you're a mum in your 40s.
Yeah.
Like they were very stringent on that I
Yeah.
had to give birth because of my age. And that was it, really. I mean, they kind of, by the third pregnancy, the gestational diabetes wasn't really happening for me. I was actually eating cake in the third pregnancy and not getting sugar spikes. So they said you've got to do the gestational diabetes thing in the first trimester. So I was doing it and being vigilant, but by the second, the readings were low. So I was sort of being a bit more daring and yeah, eating the cake, and they weren't spiking. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep eating the cake then and see what happens. Anyway, so yeah, so they couldn't really use the gestational diabetes excuse for the 40 weeks. They just said it's your age. And then, they try and give you the scary stats, don't they, about reasons why you must stick to
Be
that due
induced.
date.
Yeah.
I think for me anyway, I mean, the last few weeks of pregnancy, every day feels like a month.
Yeah.
It is, oh,
You're so
every day
uncomfortable.
yeah, you're so uncomfortable. You're climbing a mountain. It's and just the general anxiety of it all. Like, you are so close now. Your baby
Yeah.
is there, and you just want to meet your baby now. Yeah. It's
So,
really tough to stay relaxed.
so did you go in to be induced?
Yeah, so I went in and they said, right, we'll put the pessary, and I was trying to say to them, I'm pretty sure I don't need it. And they said, well, we'll put the pessary in, and we can always take it out.
What
And
is
they
that?
put the pessary, it's the first bout of hormones. They put it inside you, and it
Oh,
stimulates this, yeah, or releases the oxytocin in the start of,
of
I
labor.
believe, my God, don't actually know. Remember, of course, at the time I knew all of this like the back of my hand, but
Yes. You feel like an expert going in.
yes, you become an expert, don't you?
Yeah.
Literally within 5 minutes, my body is just like convulsing. And I went to the office because she wasn't even I was just on a general ward. And I was like, look, I really think I'm in labor. And she said, no, 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 no. You've only had it in for 5 minutes. Here's a couple of paracetamol. And I was like, no. Then I had to go to the loo. And of course, sort of everything came out. And I went back to the office and I said, look, 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 I have done this a few times. I'm definitely in labor. So she said, fine, let's get you back on the bed. Let's have a look. And she had a look and she said, okay, I'm going to take the pessary out and then I'm going to make a phone call. So she did that. She disappeared. She came back. She had with her this lovely young midwife called Sophie. I'll never forget her. And it was her first day, like her first proper shift since qualifying. And I just grabbed her, buried my head in her beautiful, fresh, linen smelling uniform. And I said, you can't leave me now. You are here with me for this now. There was just something about her. She was just so, I don't know, angelic, lovely. She smelled amazing. There was something about her spirit that just, she was wonderful. And she said, well, actually, I'm meant to stay on this floor. And I said, no, 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 no. Stay with me for this, please. And she said, okay. And she checked with her senior and they said, yeah, she can stay with you now. And that was it. Managed to get me downstairs. And it was all just about, by this point, by the third birth, I knew it was all about the breath. Just breathe through it. Just deep breaths. Don't try as much as you can to not scream. It's not pain. Pain is a bad thing. This is intensity. This is your body doing something very natural. So just go with it, with the breath. So every contraction, just go quiet, head down or onto Sophie, clinging to her for dear life, and just deep breathing as much as possible. I said, you're going to have to get me the epidural now. I can't do this without the epidural. And they said, well, you're going to have to do it without the epidural because you're too far along. I said, no, 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 you don't understand. I can't do it. So there's this point in labor that all women reach where they suddenly decide they can't do this.
Huh.
And it's just all part of the process. And everyone around you in the room has to reassure you can. So I just couldn't. So they brought the anaesthetist in, and I really feel that at this point it was just to humor me because it wasn't going to happen. I was about to give birth. At this point, my husband decided he needed the loo, so he left. And then 2 minutes later, he heard some almighty roaring and thought, that can't be my wife.
But it was.
But it was. Yeah, my waters had broke. And the second my waters broke, I just had to give birth. So I sort of flung myself down sideways. I couldn't even properly, I don't know what happened. I wasn't even properly on the bed. I was just sort of sideways, and I just opened my legs and I was just laying there, and I was just roaring, literally, because I don't want to say shouting or screaming, because it's not like that. It's a powerful, I'm expelling something. And if you think about how far it's actually going to move down your body, it's centimeters, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it literally feels like this baby is traveling miles through your
Yeah.
body. And I was just roaring, opening my lungs, opening everything. And in between, kind of, I'm not sure I can do this. And everyone in there is just, you're doing this, you're amazing, you can do this, you're so strong, you're incredible, the baby's here, one more push, all of that. Yeah, so I did it without the epidural that time. And
Wow.
yeah, again, I'm grateful for the experience. But yeah, when my husband heard the roar, he also knew that at that point I was living my worst nightmare. I was having a baby without an epidural. And that for me was the single biggest, scariest, experience of
That was the
uh,
biggest fear you were
yeah,
going through.
that was why I was like obsessed with hypnotherapy courses and apps and all the rest of it, because if I couldn't have my epidural, I'd never be able to do it. But
Yeah.
I did. And I do think it's really important that women aren't fed negative birthing stories when they're pregnant,
Yeah.
that they really surround themselves as much as possible with empowering stories.
Yeah.
And that this word, pain is not used, because it wasn't a pain. It was just an almighty, intense feeling, a very natural, experience.
So would you describe it as powerful? Like
Totally.
empowering?
Well,
Yeah.
you've seen the image of me with my
That's so true. I love that picture.
fingers in the air. I was like, yes, I am superwoman, but we're all superwomen, We're all superwomen.
So once the baby came, what was important to you? What happened after that?
The first thing is obviously you get the pain relief, because they need to do stitches
So you
if you can.
tore.
Yeah, every time actually. I tore every time. It didn't. She was my biggest as well, thanks. She was 8 she was 8 pounds. So even then, not
Not
too
too
big.
big. Yeah.
Not too big. The others were 7'9" and 7'11", but she was 8. So yeah, I tore, and that was actually when it was quite ouchy. I'm not going to lie, the stitching up. But I was shaking so much I couldn't hold her. It was such
Really?
a massive, fast moving experience. It was half an hour. It was all
Yeah.
over. So I couldn't hold her. I was shaking. So my husband just had to whip off his t-shirt, stick the baby on him,
Uh,
and wait for me to calm down, because yeah, I just couldn't believe it. And I kept saying, just on repeat, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe that just happened. I was in shock. I was just totally in shock. That's the same for a lot of women, actually, when they have babies very quickly. You can just go into a bit of a shock with it all.
yeah. Happening so
Um,
fast.
yeah, exactly. So,
Uh,
and compared to the other births where it had been like, the receiving of the baby, it had all been such a special, like, oh, immediately started breastfeeding, quite, serene,
yeah.
perfect
Maybe,
experiences.
maybe you would describe it in like slow motion, but this was like
This was the
time
opposite.
lapse. Yeah.
This was like, what just happened? I could not get myself together. I couldn't get my head around what had just happened. I was in total shock. I was shaking like quite violently, and they're still trying to stitch me up. And I'm looking at my husband like, oh my God. So it really took a while. But then, yeah, when I eventually did come down and could hold her, and yeah, and she was a super easy baby, super,
Uh,
super. Oh, she's a dream. She's like Great Baby. That's her little nickname, Great Baby.
oh. Well, how was your recovery?
Um, I would say actually the third recovery was definitely the easiest. And I think potentially because of not having an epidural as well, that may have helped.
Oh, helped.
I think that helped with the recovery
Oh,
quicker.
interesting.
Yeah, I know. But it could have also been because it was the third. But I mean, generally, the recovery. Do you know the one thing that I wasn't prepared for that hadn't really been discussed was the cramping that happens when your womb shrinks when you've had the
Oh,
baby, especially if you're breastfeeding as well. I believe that can make it a bit more intense. But I mean, on the first birth when that happened, the cramping, it was kind of like having contractions again, and I wasn't prepared for that. I was like, what's happening? This is so painful. So yeah, that was just something I wish I had known about. But you are so happy to have your baby. Yes, you are in pain, you are bleeding again, but none of it really matters as much as, it's not as strong as the feeling of joy of having your baby. Another reason why we are super women, that we just literally get on with it.
yeah.
What's just happened to us and what we then have to get on with.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how was breastfeeding this time? Were you able to breastfeed?
Yeah, every time I breastfed all three of them for a year, all three of them.
Uh-huh.
So I had three babies in 4 years and I breastfed all of them for a year.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And, I'm in my 40s breastfeeding that whole time, having three babies, basically. Yeah. I'm very lucky in that I actually had a bit of an oversupply. So I ended up donating some milk to the
Wow.
hospital.
What a great problem to have.
Well, you say that, but then mastitis was not my
Oh,
friend. Yeah, I had
yeah.
mastitis probably 10 to 12 times over the whole
Ooh,
journey of parenthood. Yeah, and
yeah.
it's nasty. It would just
Yeah.
literally, I'd be late for a feed by like half an hour, and that would be it, mastitis.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy. Yeah,
So what happened after a year? Is that when your body said it was time, or was it your babies that said it?
it was me. Yeah, I was just so tired.
Yeah.
So tired, because the thing, and I think this is something else that people don't really talk about, is when you've got a breastfed baby, they will continue to wake up every few hours, like well into being a year old. I think there are a lot of people that probably have some tips and tricks and whatever. I think I was kind of very much baby led. But even when they got to a year old, I did consult, with a sleep coach. And the advice is always just to let them cry it out. And
Uh-huh.
for me, it didn't really work because there's always a reason why you can't let them cry it out. Like they might have a cold or a tooth coming through, or do you know what I mean? There's something going on.
Yeah.
So it is tricky. It was really difficult for me to make that happen. So by the time they got to a year old, I would be exhausted and ready to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And mentally, how were you during your postpartum time?
I think postpartum, the first one, the baby blues were pretty strong, maybe for the first 10 days. But I was happy, I was in love, but just for some reason I couldn't stop crying. And it was like, I don't understand what these feelings are. You just need a hug. You can't have your husband sort of quiz you about why are you crying? Like you've got everything. What's going on? You just need a cuddle. That's all you need.
Hmm.
But also I made the mistake of trying to do way too much that first time around, like getting out for a walk or going for coffee or seeing family. That was all a silly idea. So when 2020, my son was born, everyone was in lockdown. It was the first lockdown. So
Hmm.
there was no going out, there was no seeing people. And that really, really helped. So by baby number three, I didn't go out for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
I just stayed at home, topless, with my baby on me, you know,
Yeah.
in my pajamas, and loved it.
Yeah. I can see how that's really beneficial, even just for your healing alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't go on a long walk. I was bleeding and it
Yeah.
was uncomfortable. And yeah, I would recommend just doing as little as possible, seeing as few people as possible,
Yeah.
and not having people round and making them cups of tea. If someone's going to come over, bring you some food or help
Yeah.
clean the bathroom or something.
It's BYOB everything.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, is there anything else you want to mention about your pregnancy or birth?
I think when you asked about the postpartum, and I think that was all fine. I think for me, the postpartum challenges came after around the 6 month mark. That for me is when it got gritty, sort
What
of
happened?
just because you've gone now 6 months waking up every few hours.
Uh-huh.
And breastfeeding is incredibly physically challenging. It really is. I mean, there's all sorts of like comparisons about how it's like the equivalent to running half a marathon or something. Or you burn an extra 2,000 calories or something. And it's true. It really, really drains you. And yeah, 6 months into it is when it really starts to get a bit sticky and your mental health can really start to suffer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really important, I guess, to be kind to yourself, because you also, you want to carry on being super mum. You're looking at how other people parenting or thinking about how you should feel. But it's really, really hard. And I think everybody finds it really, really hard.
Yeah. Well, you breastfed for 3 years.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips? How do you do it?
I mean, I obviously, with the first, actually, we had to really get it going. I remember we were at the hospital and we've just sort of became a bit of a team. My husband would hold the syringe for me to squeeze my nipple to get the colostrum out, and he
Oh.
would help me get it into the syringe. And that's really tricky.
Uh-huh.
And then it was, you know what? I think for me, it was just that time being that skin on skin, just constantly and not going out, just staying in bed with your baby on you, skin to skin, just doing as much of that as possible. Yeah, I really think the skin on skin with your baby, relaxing at home is the best way to bring it all on.
Yeah. It's such a selfish act. I love it. Selfless act.
Yeah, I remember seeing someone else breastfeeding, and it struck me how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
Really,
I
it's
love
so
it.
beautiful. And then seeing like a push-up bra advert billboard and thinking it's so weird that they will be so sexualized. Breasts will be so sexualized when they are such a important tool for something that is so important. And even now, just people being embarrassed to breastfeed in public, I kind of got over that. I just got on with it. You have to. If you've got a
Yeah.
baby screaming at you, you don't really care. Just give the baby what it needs in that moment.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I had one woman who didn't want me to sit near her in a coffee shop because she had her 13-year-old son about to join her. And I thought, there's a high chance your son's looked at a pair of
Lots.
breasts. Yeah,
Yes.
in a very, very different context. And actually,
That's probably better.
it'd be quite a good idea for him to see what's happening here.
What these are really for.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
That's so true.
But yeah, I mean, and in terms of, being in your 40s, I remember Googling a lot when I was pregnant with Zira at 43. Is it okay to have a baby at 43? I was quite worried about my age, but it hasn't. No, I think I feel quite confident that my body would have responded in exactly the same way at 33 as it did at 43.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah,
I'm going to be 43 whenever I give birth.
good. You'll be fine.
Well, do you have more plans to have kids in your 40s?
My husband finally got that vasectomy.
Oh, okay. So that plan has been decided.
So I'd be in a lot of trouble if I did I was pregnant. So no, that's not going to happen. I mean, it's been a lot. 3 kids in 4 years. It's been a lot. I really, I couldn't do it again, I think, for the sake of my sanity. And also, I just love sleep. I really, really love sleep. So no.
What has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Probably how the hospital made me feel about being pregnant in my 40s.
What did they do?
Just all of the stuff they guess that they feel they have to say, the kind of risks attached to your age, that would come up again and again and again. And otherwise, I wouldn't be thinking about my age, but it was always in hospital appointments that it would be discussed because of your age, etc., etc. So that was probably the hardest thing about it. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth over 40?
Yes, I guess to just do a hypnobirthing course for sure. To know that you can't control your birth. I mean, you don't get pregnant to have a perfect birth. You get pregnant to have child. So to not get fixated on how it should look or how you want it to look, because however you want it to look is very often how it doesn't end up.
I need that reminder every day.
Yeah.
I'm a type A and I'm like, no, it's going to happen exactly this way.
Oh, I just would advise against that. Just go with the flow, accept that it will happen, and just talk to your baby, between now and the birth, and know that you're doing this together as a team. In fact, it's really your baby. Your baby is doing everything. You are just this vessel that's sort of helping to facilitate it. But your baby wants to be here. It's already found its way to you. So you just have to trust that this little person, this very, very clever little person, is going to get itself out one way or another. And it has to be a case of one way or another,
Yeah.
Just get baby here, get baby safe. Just get on with it. Yeah, exactly.
What advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant if you could go back?
I'm not sure I could give myself much advice. I'm not sure I'd listen to advice anyway. I think I'm quite happy with how everything went in the end. I mean, the only thing really was just the levels of anxiety that I had, particularly towards the end. So maybe just that reassurance of, exactly as I said to you, baby will get here one way or another. The baby knows what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to kind of trust that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. So tell us about your clothing line.
Yes. So my husband and I, he is British born, first generation Nigerian, and I'm white English. So we have 3 really beautiful mixed race children. When Chia, that's our eldest, when she was born, I remember she was literally 2 weeks old and she was sitting on my husband's lap. And we were talking about, buying some like really cool clothes, some African fabric clothes for her. And Ogo's quite a few items in African fabrics that he's bought. And he had one made for him once when we were on holiday in Tanzania. And the tailor had told us that, did you know certain African prints will tell stories through all of the symbols? You see these beautiful symbols, sometimes birds or whatever. So they often will tell stories, or they pass messages between generations. And we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we created a fabric that passed a message on to our children about how we felt about them? Yeah, so we created a fabric and it carries the affirmations, I am loved, I am courageous, I celebrate color. And it's all about, the I am loved, because God, never had such a surge of love in all my life. I am courageous because exactly as I was saying to you, that intelligence, that innate instinct that the baby has to get here, and then its whole survival mode in the 4th trimester. I mean, you're just thinking, you're incredible. These tiny little beings, they're incredible. They're courageous. They're so brave. And then everything from learning to walk and talk and understand who they are and who the world is, it's massive. And then I celebrate color because we want our children to always feel confident in who they are and in their skin, and to love and accept themselves and others.
I love it. What a beautiful story. So tell us your handle on Instagram and where we can find more about you.
Yeah, so we are at Aqua Baby, and Aqua is spelled AKWA, which in my husband's language means cloth. So Aqua Baby, and yeah, that's where we are.
Awesome. Claire, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me on.
And that wraps up another great episode on Over 40 Fabulous and Pregnant podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.
Oh, you cut out for a second. You okay?
Yeah. Uh-oh. You're frozen a little bit.